Alex Ansary here. Today's date is March 1st, 2024. In 1980, just several months before Mount St. Helens blew, I was born in Portland, Oregon during solar maximum. And solar maximum is a period in which the sun, that's that light in the sky, which I believe is real and made by God, which I believe that we are spiritually connected to, when the sun is most active as far as sunspots, spitting out sunspots, CMEs, hitting the earth, providing our planet with life-giving energy. I believe that that was a very important time, as well as other periods in time in which we've seen major historical events and wars and invasions. Solar maximums are also times, I believe, right, to enhance our spirituality, to engage in meditation, to engage in the act of creating goals and moving forward and fulfilling those goals. And so at the beginning of this, you're being told to empower yourself. If I, as a young man, was aware of how I, as a Pisces, and other aspects of my psyche and my soul, as well as being born when I was born, if I knew, and where I was born, being Portland, Oregon in 1980, if I knew how sensitive that I was to become to the solar flares and the energies coming in, I would have made different decisions in the late 1990s. But because I didn't know anything and didn't have mentors in my life that were aware of the cosmic changes, although I had some mentors, but they weren't aware of those cosmic changes and how they would impact me. And so in those dark years of Portland, Oregon in the late 1990s, I already told my story, I fell into the dark ages when that city was full of some very unhealthy substances for whatever reason. By the time that the solar cycle passed, 2002 came, 2003 came, new wars started, 9/11 happened, but all of a sudden, all these people that I saw on the streets were now lined up at Hooper, at the Danmore, at Central City Concern. Their lives were changing, but yet we were at war, but yet there was something different. Solar maximum had passed. So what I'm about to tell you is that this isn't something that I've studied for years and years and years in books, although books are valuable, and as I'll talk further some other time, there's a reason why I read more articles and books from real researchers as opposed to the McDonald's version, which is to watch some other guy on YouTube who doesn't even talk about the human behavioral response to the sun, and in more cases, very much promotes fear of the EMP solar event. And as I've told you for many, many years, I don't believe that this hypothesis is going to be the end of the world, but quite the opposite, although it's going to be very destructive when it happens. And I got to break the news to you. I don't think that you're going to get rescued by a solar flare kill shot anytime soon. In fact, I think that you're here for a reason. I think that I'm here for a reason. And that we are not here to just sit around and be consumers of trash. We are here, in some cases, to be spiritual leaders. At this point in my life, I'm not afraid to talk to you about activating your own human potential and the idea that we are here to be more than human in some cases, to be more than a human being, if you follow my drift. And so there are symbols that have been used for years by the ancient world, essentially by our ancestors. And what you need to understand is just because some of them have been co-opted by the far right, and in some cases aspects of the far left, and I'm nonpartisan for those that don't know, but if you're partisan and you voted, you need to understand you can learn a lot from me. There's very little that I can learn from you. Okay? And that's honestly the truth of the situation. And so what I believe is the fact, Jack, is that there is power in the sun, and the power elite don't want us to know about the power of the sun. And so because we have a lot of undisciplined people running around this planet that don't know about meditation, they don't know about prayer, they don't know that when the sun is most active, so are the paranormal influences. And this will be a subject coming up that I'll be addressing on Coast to Coast AM in the future. Okay. Didn't get so much into the ghost, the paranormal, the psychic attacks, the jinn, the archons, the demons, call it what you will, last time, but this time I will. Because I believe that you are going to see a rise in violence in the news, and I was correct in predicting that around the time of the eclipse. And that was the time in which I chose to end my silence. I took 3.5 years off the internet because of, I counted now about 5 or 6 reasons. It's not so much finger pointing. I did it for myself. I did it to preserve the information. I did it to heal from burnout. I suffered for many, many years, folks, without a toilet, living in poverty in dangerous places in North America. Still do live in dangerous places in North America. But my faith is in God, not a firearm. This is not a commercial or a call to action, but this is some liquid iodine from some company out there in North America. Get prepared to deal with things that you may not expect, okay? So at this point, folks, what we're going to start doing, okay, and we're going to go through this slowly, and you are encouraged to subscribe for free at alexansary.substack.com, and there will be documentation on that page. That is my main web page. You are invited, of course, to follow what I'm doing and posting over at Twitter. I don't like Twitter. I don't like Elon Musk. I don't like his agenda, and I've talked about that. But I will post a few things every few days or every few weeks about the events taking place as we see the geomagnetic storms. Okay, what we're going to do at this point, before we get into geopolitics, now that we've gotten our intro out of the way, remember to subscribe to the channels. Okay, let's get into the news. Okay, this is the first time that I'm going to news. I don't have to do all this by myself. It takes me a couple hours to record a 1-hour show, but I want to thank the people that are helping me in Portland very much. So I want you to be able to connect these 5 dots, these 5 articles, and so instead of bombard you with too much information, we are going to go over these 5 articles, and then we are going to cover news, including the weapon that China has that can attack the human brain. So I hope you're ready for this. I want you to understand something, ladies and gentlemen in the audience, my friends. There is a reason why your average local mental health counselor has no knowledge of this. There's a reason why your local mental health facility, your local law enforcement officer, your local court judge, your local pastor, they are dumbed down, and it's because they're dumbed down that they're in positions of leadership. Welcome to my world, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Idiocracy. This is my life every day. Every day I look at the news, and every day I know the truth as to why there's spikes in suicides. I know the truth as to why a veteran lit himself on fire last week when the sun kicked back up. When the sun kicked back up. I noted 10 years ago in Portland, Oregon, and places like that where the energy is a little wacky. And I don't mean because of the wacky tobacco. There are periods in which people will flip out in America and outside America, and they will literally light their ass on fire. Light their ass on fire. And nobody seems to know why. And the guy you're listening to knows why. And so if you have ever struggled with mental health issues, if you have ever struggled with certain things, but you have the willpower inside to heal yourself, because some people that have mental health issues do not have the willpower to help themselves. We'll talk about some of the suffering going on in Portland and how you can help them if you want to help them. So let's talk about this, okay? Because the other day, I went by the pharmacy counter at the local grocery store, and they got the computer monitor up of the Aurora Borealis because they think it's cute. Oh, the Aurora Borealis. They've got it up. Yeah, but do you know what the Aurora Borealis represents? Do you know that, first of all, the Indians saw the Aurora Borealis as the new souls waiting to come into the planet. So for those of you waiting to do the Humpty Dump, do the Humpty Dump. You and me, baby, ain't nothing but animals. Let's just do it like they do it on the Discovery Channel. Just keep in mind, okay, according to studies, the people born during solar maximum tend to have some issues. I think that some of them are gifted. I call them solar babies. But the modern mental health field will say they've got some issues and they're predisposed to non-local awareness, what they call crazy, what I call extraordinary perceptions. But if you're not going to train that child and love that child, and if you're going to just shack up with someone, do the hump the dump, and just be lost in your own lust, then maybe you should wait till the cross between the solar max and solar minimum. It's also been revealed in some books that I read that solar maximum humans are humans that live shorter lifespans than solar minimum because of the ozone activity, other things that I'll bring up later, that are prevalent at birth, the radiation essentially. Right? So the conditions at birth and location dictate the lifespan of the child and mental health conditions and or possibility of gifts. So just keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. It's much better for those of you that are thinking about having kids and you're determined to find the right partner. Take my advice and we'll get back to the news. Find the right partner who loves you, whether you're a man or woman. And if you both have a loving consciousness as you fornicate, as you think about loving that child, and I would say that the minority of the human population does this, consciously brings in the child with the intent to love that child and love each other as they're fornicating. But just because some parents, like mine, didn't love each other after the baby came out, doesn't mean that the child wasn't meant to be born. So just keep that in mind, that humanity has shown us that we are resilient, that we could be born into certain environments and face certain levels of hardship and really come out the other side with a deep understanding to share with humanity. In many cases, and I wrote a blog about this, read it if you'd like, over at alexansary.blogspot.com or alexansary.substack.com. It is through the pain that we can find the way home. So I have a graphic that I put up of a heart that I added into the recent Wall Street article on the sun waking up. Okay, and so many of us feel a sense of sadness and heartbreak when the sun is active because what the sun is doing is stirring emotions. So they looked at geomagnetic activity from 1948 to 1997 and found that it grouped into 3 seasonal peaks. And this is also the case, folks, during solar minimum. Okay, so I did feel insulted when the GSM crowd came over and acted like we're not affected by the sun just because they're concerned about a reduction in solar activity. That's ridiculous. The awareness of how the sun impacts you and the awareness that we could be going into a reduction in overall solar output, not just one cycle, but a series of cycles and counting. I'm not guaranteeing to you at all that we're going to experience a grand solar maximum. We may be in a grand solar minimum, but the reality of how we're affected by solar maximum is the truth. And I told the truth. I never said we were going into a grand solar maximum, not once, but that we would experience a strong cycle and that I believed that the elite were planning a quote, this is different than what you'll hear from Fox News, a quote, staged managed World War III scenario. News coming up after this. We're 13 minutes in. Let's get moving. And if you want to just hear me talk about philosophy and meditation and not talk about the news, listen to my podcast on Spotify. Listen to my podcast at Substack. And yes, I'm on Spotify too. The podcast at Substack. Go to Spotify, and I may expand to Apple, and I may expand to other video platforms other than YouTube. And if you would like to volunteer or help me or work for me for free, and help me write books and organize the transcripts, which you can read for yourself now from any of my YouTube videos that you can find. If you feel what I feel, and you don't have to help me, though, to send positive support. And while I haven't heard from many of you in Portland, Oregon, I have heard from about 5 or 6 of you online, and I want to thank you for that. To the man who sent me the book on Manly Hall years ago, to the man who's sunbathing at the beach, to the women that are watching me in the UK who know about the archons and the hate of the mixed race humans. Shout out to you as well. To the other women that have watched my channel that say that my content reminds them of the movie The Knowing with Nicolas Cage, which has the weird alien saviors coming at the end, by the way. Don't know what's going on with that. Talk about predictive programming for, the alien invasion. But there are some really interesting parallels with The Knowing that reminds me, to be frank, of my own life. And so there's a woman who watched my channel and commented that had some sort of video about the sun being a portal. I couldn't agree more, and we'll talk about that further. Okay, so I appreciate those of you, even though there's not tons in the audience and comments are shut down. The comments are shut down so that I can focus on my work right now. I don't need tons of compliments, but sometimes you comment on the pictures. You will continue to see me throughout the week on my YouTube tab post pictures. You can comment on those pictures here and there. Okay, so I will continue to inform you of the world events that are going on, and I will continue to inform you little by little of the studies that have been done so that you know this is real, so that you know that you are not seeing symptoms of autism or mental illness by my above average intelligence with regards to the sun, because that's what this is. You are looking at the one dude on a planet of 8 billion that sees things and understands things that no man or woman can. Others are coming around, but I've been at this. I've been on the case for a while. Some are just now figuring this out. Some people have been talking about the sun for years and years and years, who gaslit me, like Bob Felix, friend of the GSM crowd. The sun is dying. We're all going to go to an ice age crowd. What is it about the GSM crowd that has a mental block with understanding how we are affected by the sun? Now, I showed you that to show you this. Let's move forward. And there's going to be an ongoing series of this content. Okay, Solar Wars 2025, even though we're in 2024, the expected peak of the solar cycle is July of 2025 with an expected 115 sunspots. But just because it's not expected to be a monster one doesn't mean that the elite aren't preparing for war. Again, we'll look at Putin's recent threats to the U.S. in a minute. This is a rock here. Tourmaline may be the rock. And I like to burn incense and Palo Alto, and I like to get lots of sun, and I recommend, I'm throwing in advice for you in between the news. I like to take 24 to 48 hours away from the internet at a time and just read books. Okay, so zapping the brain with electricity makes us easier to hypnotize. What is the message here? And this is the positive side of it. I got no problem with that. But is there a mind control aspect to this? And I get contacted a lot, folks. So there you go. I get contacted a lot, folks, from people that are concerned about targeted harassment, electronic harassment. I do not deny that it's an issue, but you cannot deny that there are. You cannot deny. You cannot tell me. You cannot prove to me. You cannot prove to me. You cannot show me. You cannot prove to me with evidence that there is some sort of technology that supersedes what you understand to be human technology. And at that note, okay, let me take you back. Take you back. Do. Take you back. Take it back. Fukushima, 2011. I'm sorry, what took place when Fukushima took place? I'm sorry, what? Solar flare. I'm sorry, what took place when Hurricane Katrina took place in September 2005? Solar flare. Were there articles and videos suspecting HARP or other weather modification technologies literally being flipped on? Yes, there were. So what am I saying to you? I'm saying to you that the powers that be have technologies that they flip on. That's at a level that is beyond our comprehension and understanding, but it is admitted and it is going on. Do you understand what I'm saying? There's another article I could show you another time. Listen, let's just do it. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, now why would they do this? Why would they do this? Why would they beam this? See, now we're rocking and rolling. Scientists beam solar power to Earth from space for first time ever. I'm sorry, what? I'm sorry, what would be the purpose of this activity? What are you doing? What is your malfunction? Do we really need more of this? And so the experiment proves the viability of tapping into a near limitless supply of power in the form of energy from the sun, from space. What the fuck? Now, you got to understand, magnetism affects the human brain. They have proven this. So here we go, zapping the brain to hypnotize. Okay, now, just a heads up, I will be producing content during the upcoming solar minimum based on the content that I make during the solar maximum. So for those of you that are going to be joining me in 2026, 2027, 2028, folks, we've got a lot of work to do. We've got books to write. I'm looking for not only an apprentice, but also mentors. Do you understand? I'm looking for people to teach, and I'm looking for people to teach me, because I will be the author of an incoming Solarpedia that will blow the water out of the previous solar books without promising solar ascension or the end of the world. And there are many people that go in that direction. And in a future episode, okay, let me wrap this up. In a future episode, I will be discussing the late Tom Horn and what he believed about 2025 and the Essenes. As I said to you many times, and you picked up on it, I work for the women of 2075, and they will understand why I cared so much about these human trafficking concerns in a day, in an era, in a world in which many women refuse to comment on the matter on my channel. Other channels may be different. Okay. There is a sense of spiritual war that I feel when I try to reach out to people in Portland. In fact, I am considering no longer contributing content to Portland if the people of Portland have spite for me. And if they have an inability to go to the computer and firing off an email and say, bro, we're watching. Bro, we're watching. Okay. And I need to remind the people that are watching that I'm not talking to you repeatedly, the same person. Let's say your name is Jack and you're in Portland. I'm not talking to you, Jack. I'm talking to Jennifer. I'm talking to Sarah. I'm talking to Bill, but not Bill Olson. What's up, Bill Olson? Bill Olson was one of the few in Portland, Oregon to actually help me to correct my statement from 2 weeks ago. And there were some others that helped me that were friends of James Gillen, but I don't believe that their intentions were good, and they were quick to judge me for being concerned, if you want the truth, about anti-white violence coming from black thugs in Portland. Okay, so there's times, folks, in which Portlanders have helped me, but very briefly. And the reality is I'm helping the city of my birth because energetically it feels like the right thing to do, because there's nobody that I see in Portland, Oregon, and I'm not going to bash the man on the air every show. I'm just going to tell you that I don't listen to that man that some of you listen to, and there's reasons why. There's reasons why I don't listen to Alex Jones. There's reasons why I don't listen to Clyde Lewis, okay? If you want to send me a show from Coast to Coast AM and say, check out this guy who talked about the sun, Maurice Cotterell or some other guy, I'll consider it, but I don't listen to Coast AM on a regular basis. And I respectfully appreciate the fact that they will let me get on their communications network and send out a message in a bottle. Breaker 1-2, breaker 1-2, breaker 1-2. This is Red Dragon. This is Red Dragon communicating the truth about 2025. I have no idea whether this radio is going to work for me. But if you want to advise me on a low power FM, if you've got the technical know-how to recreate the scene from They Live and put me in They Live and literally let us hack into Embassy Nightly News when World War III hits the fan, when you know what, it's the fan, call me, bro. Call me. This guy kind of goes into the global enlightenment thing, which I don't really support, but I do support the idea that you can become enlightened with the solar flares. But to say that everybody to the left of you and the right of you is going to become enlightened also is some toxic thinking, because I do believe, so yeah, I'm going to interject some rants with news so that you're learning along with the news that you're reading. I believe that some humans amongst us have angel souls, and no matter what, you'll never be able to change the fact that some humans are on parole here from hell. They're demon souls. They work for Satan. And whenever Satanism is exposed, they become angry at the one exposing the paranormal. And so I have stories that I'm not telling you about that are recent, in which people from the city of my birth have had very angry thoughts towards me for believing that we're not alone in the universe. So for those of you that are in Portland that do believe that we're not alone in the universe, that do appreciate knowledge of the archons, you are so missing out for not knowing my name. And so for those of you that do know about the paranormal, the things that go bump in the night, and that Clyde Lewis and George Norrie and David Icke don't have the full picture, and this guy who's from Portland does, you need to be working the streets telling people about my name, and that there is paranormal commentary on the Portland experience. And so even though there are people watching this outside of Portland, remember, and let's get back to this, and this is the book, okay? It's not a call to action to go to any website. You can get these books at the library or do your own research at how to obtain the information. And I do readings from these books, folks, on my channel. I'm going to do readings from this book on my channel, and I'm going to give you one more fun fact and then get back to the news. Okay, and I'm giving you a little bit of news so I don't freak you out. Okay, a little bit of news, a little bit of music video here and there so I don't freak you out. And we try to take breaks about a half hour in. A week and a half before I was born, a space satellite of some type from NASA was launched. And the name for the satellite that was launched on February 14th, 1980, was none other than SolarMax. And it just so happens to be that my website is solarmaxnews.com. It just so happens that I have a Facebook group or page called facebook.com, but I think it's flipped off because I turned my account off. I constantly do that to clear my head of psychic interference. I turn off my page. But it's SolarMax News, facebook.com/SolarMax News. Join it if you're on Facebook, and let's talk about the events during SolarMax. And so I'm telling you, I'm not anti-GSM awareness. I am a guy that talked about the effects of the sun, and for years I dealt with less than positive energy from people that had a less than healthy obsession with the solar minimum portion of the cycle. And my message to you is, and let's get back to this and then get back to the geopolitical news. I believe that the solar maximum and the solar minimum, not only in the 11 on average cycle, but the grand cycles, is still a yin-yang balance. Do you know what yin-yang is? That even though some of you are real defensive of civilization and think that our society is so great and you're so big to defend it and big population numbers, I don't know why. I'm not with you on that. I'm not with you on this in worshiping the fertility gods. I'm not down with your worship of big militaries and big populations. I'm totally down with the creator going, what are you doing? What are you doing? I have warned you, and I have warned you, and I have warned you, and I have warned you. Stop killing my people. How many books do I have to write? How many warnings do I have to give you? Stop killing all people. Not just killing black people. Stop killing all people, and stop with the racism that's building towards innocent white people because the Nazism that you people, no. Let me just get this real out of the way right now. Because it's not just about me talking about the solar flares. It's about the energy in me coming out with the solar flares. F you, F you, F you. Every single one of you that wants to point at the other political party and call them the Nazis, the biggest neo-Nazi activity and movement of this century was the 9/11 attacks. And the real perpetrators between the attacks. And you, the people of Portland, failed for letting people like Alex Jones be at the forefront of it because he nosedived that movement into the ground on purpose when he started to hump the Trump. Now the people that hump the Trump, they don't care that Alex Jones was an 9/11 truther. I tell them every day. I tell them every day that Trump was elected because of people like Alex Jones and Chris Green of AMTV and others that used to be 9/11 truthers, and then they shut their mouth. They shut their mouth like good little hyenas. Good little witches. Because that's what they're doing. They've got a witch's brew. No offense to those of you that are out the good witches. But we've got some bad witch energy, bad to the bone, that's out there in this so-called supposed truth movement of North America, if you could even call it that, right? So you've got a lot of bad dudes out there that are basically engaged in witchcraft. They don't care about the truth. And I have always cared about the truth. And before Trump was saying fake news, before the people are saying fake news about Trump and Trump supporters, right? Left-wing accusation of fake news, right-wing accusation of fake news. But then there's Alex Ansary, your boy, for those of you that are conscious enough to see me as that. I was calling out fake news in 2012. I was calling out fake news in 2011, right? And when Donald Trump was in diapers, and actually I'm younger than him. Now, when Donald Trump was making up fake conspiracies about Obama being a foreigner, I was invading people, interviewing people about the Red Dawn scenario, right? Scares people to talk about the Red Dawn scenario. But yet here we've got Putin every day threatening America. And so, folks, you got to know, when the you-know-what's the fan, Clyde Lewis didn't warn you. Clyde Lewis didn't have your back. And Clyde Lewis was not held accountable by the people of Portland or the conspiracy audience. Mainstream conspiracy theorists are dumber than rocks. If you don't know how the sun influences when the New World Order fires false flags your direction, you have not been a very good student of my work, and people of power in the alternative media should have told you my name a long time ago, right? The mayor of Portland knows my name. The former mayor of Portland knows my name. The mayor before that knows my name. The Oregonian knows my name. Trump might even know my name. Alex Jones knows my name. David Icke knows my name. And a lot of people know my name, and they won't have anything to do with me, and I won't even try to have anything to do with them. For the record, George Norrie, although I have accidentally misspelled his name, George Norrie, for the record, is the only major world figure willing to talk to Alex Ansary. And that's a fact, Jack. Let's get back to the news. So you've got to understand that when I set up this discussion to talk about the news recently, right? Immediately afterwards, we see the sun erupting with the most powerful solar flare since 2017 amid a explosive week. Okay, and I got contacted also by someone who does what I used to do back in Portland a lot, which is walk and walk and walk. And I used to walk that city and walk that city, and just my ideas just get filled and filled and filled. And there was a point in time in which I did not feel right being outside of Portland. I couldn't think straight during certain years. But now that it's solar maximum, it doesn't matter. I've got so much energy running through me. I quit marijuana for 3 years, then went back to the CBD THC blend for those of you that are just straight up stoners and have not yet experienced the non-super psychoactive experience. I highly recommend it, especially if you want to get work done. So folks, I have so much advice for you. Some of you don't even know how much advice I have. I have advice on where to go outside of Portland when you choose to leave. If you've had the money, honey, because you know it's not free and you want to live off-grid. I know some decent places to live off-grid, but it's not free and it's not easy to live with other people. But if you are able to live with a micro tribe that you've already got a chance to get to know, you always want to get to know them beforehand. You're at a greater advantage than the person who goes it alone. So the sun has unleashed its most powerful solar flare in around 10 years. And I'm telling you, what I'm noticing now are synchronicities upon synchronicities upon synchronicities, because I just want to show you something. We're over here and we've got new subscribers. Anyway, I just want to show you that because I notice a symbolic nature to the number, just so you know, 6, really 7, 8, and 9. Something angelic about the numbers 7, 8, and 9. And there's times in which I've prayed, and I've done videos that you've seen out in nature, where I watch the birds, and I'm noticing exactly 7, 8, or 9 birds fly by me as I give an outdoor speech. I was watching in one video where birds almost seemed to be behind me as I was speaking in a members area video, like behind my head and then coming out like, what the hell? But I feel a strong connection, just so you know, to animals now. A stronger connection than I had before to dogs in the neighborhood. I protected a black woman, from being attacked by a dog a few months ago. First time I ever used mace. I have a cat that I've been caring for multiple years. And I notice when the solar cycle kicks off that there almost seems to be like a deeper spiritual connection between myself and the cat, maybe even a psychic connection. Also horses. So I think that there's an up and a down, again, to the solar maximum and minimum. If we're overloaded with the energy, we can become aggravated, even animals. But at the initial stage or a stage of the input, there can be a sense of euphoria. And so again, for those of you in Portland or other major cities, like there's going to be periods in which you really, really want to go out and, quote, get laid or get drunk or party. And you may not know about the series of X-class solar flares, and you may not know that your city, be it Portland or New York or LA or San Francisco, is in a certain place on the planet to when the geomagnetic storms are active, that pranayana is literally coming up from the ground of the cities you're walking upon. It's not just coming from the ground, the sky down, it's the ground up. It's the core of the earth, folks, being affected by the solar flares and emitting that energy up. And so if you're in certain cities like Portland, you could have an enlightenment experience. And I got one person who's sending me an email of his thoughts as he walks the city, just like the young Alex Ansary. He's having weird experiences at Laurelhurst. I've gotten emails from Portlanders for years, but it completely ended 10 years ago. And so not only am I one of the only people in the Portland airwaves that has this level of intelligence, there does seem to be this ongoing spiritual attack and blockage that keeps the residents of Portland, Oregon from directly connecting with me or giving me any what we would call kudos for the things that I am saying, right? That's not an accident. Folks that may be watching me in Portland, I'm from Portland. I know you very well, especially those of you that are not from Portland. I know how you can actually move into the city of Portland and be influenced by both narcissism and apathy because of the energy construct that you're in, because of the high cost of rent, because of all the homeless around you that seem insane, that if you even hear about someone becoming homeless, that you might instantaneously turn on them. Case in point, let's get back to the news. I posted my 2014 episode on being homeless in Portland, Oregon. Who else do you know that was on the air in Portland, Oregon that was homeless, that continued to fight for your favor? On the Portland Reddit page, they made sure that my account was deleted and removed. Okay, so there's so much hatred of the independent ethnic voice in Portland, Oregon on pages like Reddit and all the pages on Facebook that I am not allowed to speak. I am not presently allowed to speak amongst Portlanders in online internet spaces. The only exception was the open signal message board that allowed me to connect with a producer who is making sure that this show is being aired. Outside of this, no Portlanders will allow me to speak to other Portlanders. So when you hear me talk about spiritual warfare, energy parasites, how people on the air like Portland, Oregon that have ties to the far right and Alex Jones don't get confronted by Antifa, not that they should, but it's hypocritical for you to riot in the streets over Donald Trump when you have one of his spokesmen on the air called Clyde Lewis, and there's not even a blog criticizing him, right? So you got to understand calmly why I have the views that I view about Portland being an example of a dystopian white supremacy experience. For those of you that are white, that are experiencing discrimination in Portland, I don't think it's your ethnicity. If you're a spirit being, it's that. If you are a white male and you are feeling discriminated against in Portland, Oregon, it isn't your white heritage. I refuse to believe that because I'm from Portland. It's the idea that you might have a spirit body within you, and that the other people around you that are hissing at you, that are treating you with negativity, that are trying to destroy your life if you end up, that are attacking you in the streets. I've been attacked and assaulted by homeless in the streets. So has Eli Ritchie, who I have chastised for his far-right connections to radicalized black supremacists like Kareem. Okay? So I do not tolerate people that allow themselves to be taken over by evil, and people that served overseas that have not repented for the people they have killed, that did not do nothing to you on 9/11. They will be confronted. It's amazing how many people think they're truthers and anti-New World Order that don't give a damn about what happened on 9/11, that cared for a few years until, of course, Alex Jones stopped talking about that. And plenty of Portlanders in the early days of Bush were all about the truth about 9/11. Till Obama came in, and anybody not down with the Obama Kool-Aid drinking was considered the enemy. Folks, we're running out of time, so let's turn up the heat. Okay, because these shows are 1 hour. You want more? Come over to alexansary.substack.com. I'm looking at the timer, just like this is a live show, and we are producing this, folks, just like Bill Olson is behind the scenes. Bill, tell me how you're doing, bro. Send me an email, and we can talk. If you want to talk on the phone, Bill, we can talk, but I don't like the comment sections. I want people to comment on my Substack. YouTube deleted my comments, folks. YouTube's not my buddy. You got to understand, YouTube's a bastard, and I'll talk to you more about that later. So large sunspot spit out the strongest solar flare in 6 years, is pointed directly at the Earth. I don't recommend going out and looking at the eclipse in April, unless you can tell me that you think that it's a very spiritual eclipse as opposed to 2017. But I did look at the 2017 eclipse, and I'll admit it, I did look at it without the proper protection. Briefly, and I pulled a Trump. I don't have a lot in common with Trump, but for the first time, you heard it here, folks. Ansary pulled a Trump. We both glanced at the sun. But I'm okay, folks. But I did experience eye damage for years. Solar flare. The sun touches our psyche. Maybe it's time to wear tinfoil on our hats. With high electromagnetic energy coming from the sun this way, our electromagnetic fields may start glowing, even if we do not begin condensing. Listen to this. Listen to this. Scientists have noted correlations between solar flares and mood. They're talking about the aura, folks. I told you about this. That when the sun is active, we become more active and we light up here on the earth plane. So for those of you in Portland, for those of you in other major cities, you're in these dense population centers to where you are being observed by forces of intelligence that most of you don't even believe in, even if you listen to Coast AM and Clyde Lewis and David Icke and Alex Jones, which makes you a special kind of ex-buddy blankety blank. I'm just trying to be, listen. You need a life coach that's going to tell you when your lifting form is bad. Okay, you need a coach like Rocky that's going to say, get up, you son of a... Because Mickey loves you. As he's going down in Rocky 5, getting knocked in the head by Tommy Gunn, there is the voice of his trainer. Get up, you son of a B, because Mickey loves you. I've got to be that stern father with you. No more Mr. Nice Guy, as the song says. So there's got to be times in which I whisper sweet nothings into your ear in my members area, and I educate my disciples or the people that are closer to me, the members area, right? But in public, every now and again, I've got to tell you how it is. And unlike other people in the alternative media, I'm not going to blow smoke up your kazoo. Okay, I believe, and I think I need to say this on national radio, but I'm not going to say my full thoughts on national radio. But I'm going to say that I believe that there's a lot of narcissism in the so-called American truth movement and leftists in America, period, where they think that their own, doesn't smell rancid. The leftists in Portland this way, the far-right folks are this way. And let me just say this border situation is orchestrated. I've seen this like in my third eye, so to speak, 10 years ago, and the role Alex Jones would play on radicalizing aspects of his fan base to go to the border for a war with Chinese troops that they're being set up for. Chinese troops are not being brought in yet, but there is a grander conflict coming, and I've been at the forefront of warning you about this. Now, there are articles out there. Let's just get right to it. We're running out of time. Political. Putin threatens NATO with nuclear strike if it sends troops to Ukraine. I told you wars would kick off, and whether you see Ukraine is invading Russia, invading Ukraine, or whatever, it doesn't matter what you think about it. What does matter is that war has kicked off, and this war that has kicked off has the potential of involving NATO. Air Force General predicts war with China in 2025, tells officers to prep for firing a clip at a target and aim for the head. Okay, I hope I am wrong, but my gut tells me we will fight in 2025. One of the things that I megaphone in the streets of Portland, Oregon in 2007 is that they were planning for electromagnetic weapons to be used on populations that will be rioting for food in 2025. It was some article I read, and so that I think spurred my intuition, because I do believe that I have a psychic connection to the sun. Like I said earlier, as soon as I scheduled my upcoming interview on my concerns about war in this period, all of a sudden the sun erupted with a gigantic sunspot. I'm not the only one that has a psychic connection to the sun. Okay, so are they talking about the sun being most active in this NBC News article? No, but I told you that there was the potential of this before this article was even written. So was I onto something, or was I onto something? So Nikki Haley is not a good source of information. She looks like a woman that I had a strong attraction to, named Angel in Portland, Oregon. Beware of those called Angel that are anything but. Okay, so China is the largest developer of neurostrike weapons engineered to change the brain activity of military commanders and sentiment of the population. Okay, so just because this was said by Haley doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. Just because Donald Trump, right, allegedly tried to warn you about TikTok, although I think he's connected to China, but that's another discussion. Okay? Just because Donald Trump is a douchebag doesn't mean that because when Trump is critical of TikTok, that your ass should get on TikTok and start slapping your ass like Zoe Ansary, my distant relative, for clicks and hits and shits and giggles. Ansary says no. Ansary's answer says no. Don't slap that ass on TikTok for shits and giggles, okay? Do you understand what I'm saying? Now, this is the Microsoft Start app. And one of the things that I've noticed about the Microsoft Start app is that private conversations that I have had okay, content of private discussions that I have had have influenced the type of news. Is this happening to you? I asked you a question. Can you send me an email? Have you noticed your news feed, if you use a computer like mine or software like mine, I think it's Windows 10 or 11, have you noticed the news that is being suggested for you mirroring private either cell phone discussions, email discussions, or podcasts? Map shows U.S. military projecting power around China. Pictures show China's Soviet buildup aircraft carrier on the move. Lots of articles about major expansions. And I told you, we talked about this. Yes, we talked about this with Joel Skousen. And we uploaded it. I uploaded it to disclose.tv. And what did disclose.tv do, ladies and gentlemen? What did disclose.tv do? They deleted my 2025 warning. Right? They deleted it. I've been telling you that the internet has been promoting black and white supremacy, and I don't believe that it should be promoting other forms of supremacy ideology at all, but I do believe that it's promoting both black and white supremacy to weaponize blacks and whites against the third world. When there are false flags blamed on Muslims, there's going to be blacks and whites that are on the far right that are going to believe in rounding them up and putting them in camps, okay? So I've made this prediction, and I think those of you that are black and white that act like you care about racism, you're pathetic, you're Satanist in my eyes for not coming to my aid and having a conversation with me. Like you act like you have compassion for the people in Gaza, right? Like Arya, whatever her name is, the girl who wrote the book about Antifa in Portland, and then the woman says, let's burn the Quran. Listen, let's just do this. At the same time in which she's showing compassion for the people of Gaza. I told you about this, folks, over and over and over again. I told you about this over and over and over again.
There's so many of them, like, why hasn't, this, I will say this, I told you I'm not going to delve into it and make a long video about it, but did you know that the Quran has never been rewritten? It's been translated into different languages.
So basically, we have people out there that hate Muslims, but when it comes to Gaza, even though they're Muslim, they get a pass, even though they're not perfect too, and they're Muslim. Also, they refuse modern American conspiracy theorists and people on the left that say they support Muslims but also hate Muslim men, so they care about Muslim women, but there's plenty of Muslim women that are totally down with men oppressing them. The women in my father's family that are Afghans have a allegiance to men that harm them and control them. I'm not lying to you, and they don't like me because they're told by the bad men in my father's family that a man that wants to liberate them is bad. And so those of you that have like cemented your brain into Nazism without admitting it, hating all Muslims or people that look Muslim or sound Muslim or have Muslim last names, you are a special kind of Satanist, because I told you they are blending white and black supremacy. Okay? And AI is doing this. And I told you they were boosting both black and white supremacy talking points on the internet at the same time. And now AI is coming out and merging the black and white human, and people are going, what's going on with the black Nazis? And I know what's going on. I know what's going on when Alex Jones has Kanye West, who's connected to the black community. I know what's going on when Donald Trump has Kanye West and a white nationalist by the name of Nick Fuentes, right, coming down to Mar-a-Lago. I know what's going on, and I know the social engineering that is being set up for the people of the earth. Okay? And so what we are dealing with is a very, very serious situation. I think at this point we need to bring the show to a close. I'm going to insert some other videos. I brought you a lot of information to digest, some other things that are in the news. I might as well just go ahead and let you know in our final statements here. Let's see. North Korea is making threats again. As you know, there's been about 30,000 people that have been sacrificed in Gaza. As you may or may not have heard, India is sending its troops. I heard this from someone in Portland. I heard that it's joined the far right, basically, in Israel. I see India as part of the New World Order. And I predicted, by the way, just so you know, that there would be mass genocide of Muslims in 2022. I just assumed it would be America many years ago. Now I know that what I was picking up on psychically and intuitively, just so you're aware, take a look at what they're doing in India. Take a look at the calls for genocide that are mainstream in India. Take a look also at American Indians, aspects of them that are extremists. For those of you that are in my audience, you need to know the truth. I have worked so hard to reach Black Americans, especially heterosexual Black Americans, Black male Americans. And even though I see spiritual Black people on YouTube that speak about spiritual topics that I agree with, and I've reached out to them, I truly do believe that people of the African American heritage, many of them, have been so programmed by the post 9/11 attacks and anti-immigrant sentiment that it's much more difficult for me to get empathy or sympathy from either Black Americans, male or female, or from other non-white ethnicities. I am not a fan of the Great Replacement theory. I don't subscribe to it, but are there concerns that some people have about being replaced that are legitimate? The answer is yes. In recent years, my eyes have been opened, not so much to what I would call the Great Replacement theory, but to deliberate actions on the part of our government in some cases to care more about people that don't give a damn about you and your liberty. And so to a certain degree, they are filling this country up with people that don't like you in some cases. But that does not mean that you should judge me for my ancestry. That does not mean that you should judge others that are immigrants that are not a part of this. But you do need to understand this about the system. The system under Biden and or Trump doesn't really care about immigrants. Those of you that voted for Biden are a special kind of stupid. You should be waking up based on his allegiance with Israel. And if you're not waking up to Biden being a part of the system of white supremacy, you are a part of the problem and you have been put on notice. If you want to follow my content, you have been invited multiple times to email me and subscribe to alexansary.substack.com. You are invited to tune in to Coast AM coming up at some point in spring of 2024, and there will be more information on that, as well as a documentation master source page. Also, a new ebook coming, which will be a compilation of the 11-part blog series that I wrote in 2019. And of course, a special shout out to Eric out there working at Subway. I do appreciate you calling in 2019 as well, and hope that you are well. For people like you to have a deep intelligence as you do, and to be working in the world of fast food is just another statement to how many of the people that many of you have come to see as the most successful, the most intelligent, the most wealthy are not actually the purest or the most honest. And in some cases, the most hardworking, the most loyal, the most trustworthy, the most godly are some of the most despised, impoverished people on the earth. People of earth that are watching this right now for years, you have been brainwashed by other bad men and women. And if you want a true state of deprogramming from this New World Order agenda, you have come to the right place. Be kind to me, and I will be kind to you. But burn me and attack me and do horrible things to me, and don't expect me to exchange energy with you. Because there's a lot of people out there on this planet that want to hear my voice and want to hear my truth. And there are forces on this planet that would love for me to shut up. I was born during solar maximum for a reason, to shine my light, and any attempts to suffocate or quench or to cover up my light will be defeated in the end. I want to thank you for watching. SolarStorm333 is the email. Take a look at the websites at the end of the show to follow me online for more philosophical content. Until next week, or the next podcast in which you hear my voice, I'm Alex Ansary, reminding you the path to the ultimate truth and place of power still lies within.
logical breakdown. Oh no, this is the road to hell. All just bits of paper flying away from you. Oh, look how we'll take a good look what goes down here. You must learn this lesson fast and learn it well. This ain't no upwardly mobile freeway. This is the road. This is the road. This is the road to hell.
You know, our leaders over here, you don't know how many nuclear bombs we have. Today they're talking about, 2,000 and 1,000 that the Russians have. The Russians have 20,000 nuclear warheads. We have about 10,000. I mean, you can look it up on the internet. It is there. So when they talk about these small figures, that is their goal that they were going to have that was set up by the last treaty that they had. But then when we started attacking Iraq, and Iraq was all their nuclear stuff was all being Russian. Iran is all Russian right now with their nuclear stuff, and the Russians have pulled all their nuclear scientists out of southern Iran right now because they have all the nuclear reactors and things there, because they can see what's coming up, getting a nuclear war started. Syria has some nuclear bombs. They're all over the place, and who's their enemy right now is Israel, which is basically an interesting situation because they want to follow the biblical prophecies to get this thing going. And Israel, I'm telling anybody, if you see a nuclear bomb hit Israel in the next few months, and I think it could happen, that's going to begin World War III. Because by the nature of everything, if we hit Israel, that's automatically a declaration of war against the United States, and we'll respond in kind. Is that what they're going after Iran, which in turn brings in Russia, and Russia has nuclear submarines on both coasts of the United States and floating platforms, or they call them cosmospheres, over the United States, prepared for all this thing for the population reduction program, which they've already put up a monument for, Alex. This is down in Georgia. It's called the Georgia Guidestones. They're only expecting 20 million Americans to be left alive on this